1955. We were more than pleased to welcome back Gillian as a full member again. The committee chosen were, as last year, leader Wendy, secretary Marissa, with the addition of Gillian. The junior club chose Pat Ellis as leader and Kathleen as second. Kathleen left the club, so Pat Rolls took over her place as second. We had 2 long committee meetings with some very ambitious ideas. In February, I sent off to Elton, Hartington and Ilam youth hostels for our Easter hiking expedition, Good Friday to Easter Tuesday. We decided there would be no camp this year, but that we would save up for a 1956 camp. All those who went hosteling at Easter had to join the Youth Hostel Association, as I could not get a party permit on a bank holiday. Here we have some reports of the trip and photos taken while there. 50 miles in 5 days. On Good Friday, early in the morning, we set off to catch the 7:55 a.m. bus from Huntingdon Street. We being Wendy, Joyce, Peggy, Rosemary and myself. We had quite a rush, but caught it all right. We went by bus to Matlock, and then we started walking. First of all, we went up a very steep hill out of Matlock, and then across some fields. We were walking along by the hedge, when quite suddenly we saw Peggy had caught a budgie, a very pretty bird. She had just picked hold of it as it sat in the hedge. We could see a farm only a short distance away, so we called there to see if they had lost one. They hadn't. Peggy and Wendy had, while we waited on the roadside, gone back to Matlock with the bird. However, they couldn't find the right owner, but a gentleman gave them 5 shillings for the bird, and they left it with him, who said he would keep it if no one claimed it, as he had lost his own budgie. After this, we carried on over Ochre Hill and down to Darley Bridge, and climbed up quite high again before having dinner. After dinner, we went to Birchover and then to Elton Youth Hostel via Dudwood Farm. Elton is a self-cooking only hostel, and we were soon busy cooking our supper. After this we played cards and dominoes before going to bed. Next morning we cooked breakfast and did our duties. This took some time, as the warden was very strict on the blankets being folded correctly, and she kept coming to inspect them. When we eventually made a start, we made for Winster, where we met Gillian and Marissa. After this, we went down through Elton, across to Dale End and Lowfield Farm. It was here where we made friends with the lamb, which Jill is holding in the photo. It kept following us, so Jill took it into another field where we hoped it would find its mum. After this, we got ourselves lost. We were making for Middleton, but there was no visible path. We went by the signpost when we reached a road. However, we think the signpost was wrong, as we walked about a mile in the wrong direction. After asking, we found Rame Lane and Green Lane. It was a very pleasant walk along these lanes to Hartington. After a very welcome supper, we played cards on the common room floor, and a man played the piano while we sang. He called us the choir. His signature tune was The Happy Wanderer, which he played over a dozen times, much to everyone's amusement. It must have sounded a bit like this. The next day, Sunday, we walked from Hartington to Ilam through the dales. It rained at the beginning of the journey. The river was very high and the path was extremely muddy all the way. Our tune of the day was "Mud, Mud, Glorious Mud." A man haunted us all day, and he wouldn't go anywhere without me, and we had to share all our food and everything with him. He was all right, but we couldn't shake him off, and we had a real laugh when some of us climbed Thorpe Cloud. He went with us and held Marissa's hand all the way up and down the other side. He saw her climbing on her hands and knees, and he said, "Hey, no, we can't have this," and took over from there. By the way, the stepping stones were covered with water. I also should have put that we visited the Hermit's Cave yesterday near Elton, where some of the photos were taken. We arrived at the hostel before 5 and had to wait in the queue. Our man friend hadn't booked, but managed to get in. He sat with us throughout supper, but after this we started dancing and finally got rid of him. I danced with 2 scoutmasters, one tall and thin, the other short and bold. They were both very nice, and we asked them to arrange a campfire sing-song for the last half hour of the evening, which they did. The night before, they told us, there had been lots of scouts and they had had a real good sing-song. We didn't see Jill during the campfire, as she had been locked outside with a boy named Dave. I saw her just after the warden had let them in and told them off. Monday morning, our friend took our photo with our camera and also took a snap of us with his own camera. Some weeks after, he wrote to me and sent a coloured photo of us all. Of course, we were very thrilled with this. However, we made sure we were going in the opposite direction to him. Our route took us through the grounds of Ilam Hall, over the River Manifold to Rushley, then up the hill by a track to Throwley Hall. We spent some time here watching 2 farmers and a small boy trying to catch a sheep and trying also to stop it getting near the other sheep and lambs. They were trying to coax it with a dead lamb on the end of a rope. We weren't near enough to ask if we could help, so we kept the other side of the wall so as not to do the wrong thing. Eventually they got it cornered, and we were able to continue to Old Park Hill, and then we went about 1.5 miles out of our way to climb up to Thor's Cave, 1,000 feet above sea level, and to get a drink from Wetton Mill Calf in the Manifold Valley. We retraced our steps and continued along the footpath, which used to be a railway track, along the River Hamps to Greensides, near Waterhouses. It was a long and tiring walk, and we crossed about 13 small bridges along the path. Then we took the road to Colton and back through Rushley and to Ilam Hall, about 15 miles altogether. We were about all in when we arrived and were pleased to be shown a quicker way into the hostel, although some of the girls were suffering from blisters. I'm pleased to say we didn't hear much in the way of grumbles. Pat Stacey. On Monday night, Gillian and Marisa left us because they had to go to work the following day. When we reached Ilam Youth Hostel, the first thing we did was to have a very good wash. We didn't have to make our beds because that was the second night there and we had already made them. After changing our clothes, we went downstairs into the common room, dining room also, where we started talking to some people who were there. At about 6:30 p.m, the warden came in to put chairs and tables up for dinner, and we helped him. At 7 p.m, we had dinner, which was very appetizing. After dinner, we retired to the library and then asked the warden if we could dance as we had done the previous night. He said we could, and he fetched the gramophone and took it to the common room. Soon after, dancing was in full swing. It was about 10:45 p.m. when the warden came and told us to pack up. The next morning we didn't wake up until 7 a.m. Tuesday. On Tuesday morning we had breakfast and then went to get our packs ready to depart. That finished, we went to find out what our duty was to be. Then we fetched our cards and prepared to leave. First of all, we went to Dovedale, and all the girls except myself climbed Thorpe Cloud, while I stayed to look after the packs. When they came down, we began to walk by the river to some remote village called Mapleton, where we had a very refreshing drink. Before we had reached this village, we had stopped to have some dinner. After drinks, we made our way across some fields until we reached a stream where we had a paddle. When we were ready, we set off again, and our next stop was Ashbourne. We did just manage to miss a bus, owing to Pat going for some coffee. We didn't think we would get another one for another hour, but a duplicate came, so we boarded it and clambered for the back of the bus. This bus took us to Derby. From Derby we caught a bus to Nottingham and then one to our homes. We arrived home at about 5 p.m. We all agreed that we had enjoyed ourselves thoroughly, despite blisters and scratches and aches of all kinds. J. Parkinson. A few pictures from their youth hostel in Adventures in Derbyshire.